She is. I think she will.
Okay.
I think she's on her way. She's getting to the back. She,
Welcome to the 76th edition of the Locarno Film Festival and this session of questions and answers after the premiere of Sweet Dreams by Anna Sendiarevic, writer and director of the film, who is here with us. Please welcome Anna. So together with her is the big cast of the film. So on my left, Lisa Zwirman in the role of Josephine. Next to her, René Zautendijk in the role of Agathe. Hayati Aziz in the role of Siti. Next to Anna is Rio Den Haas in the role of Karel. Muhammad Khan in the role of Reza. Florian Mayer in the role of Cornelis. And the producer of the film, Eric Kleines. So thank you very much for being in Locarno and premiering your film here. I would like to remind the audience that we have microphones going around, so please feel free to raise your hand whenever you want to ask a question or share your impressions about the film. And I can start with the question to Anna. And it's the question of why this film? What is it that attracted you to make a period piece nowadays about the Dutch Indies?
Is it on? Is it working? It is? Okay. So it's always hard to answer the question where a film really starts. You know, there's always so many things happening at the same time, and then they accumulate into an idea and into a why of making. I feel that I hear wind, or is it me? I think one of the whys is okay. This is gonna be better. Better? Okay. After making my first feature film in Bosnia, the country where I was born, I really felt a desire to understand a bit more about the Netherlands, which is the country where I've lived for 26 years and where I grew up as well. And I wanted to understand a bit more about the position of the Netherlands or Western Europe in relation to the rest of the world, the rest of the planet. And so when I started to think about that a bit, then I somehow ended up in the past, and in this case the colonial past, so the Dutch East Indies. And I became more and more interested in these colonial dynamics. Yeah, so I felt that it would be interesting to make a film that would serve as a mirror in certain ways to our contemporary world, where you could understand a bit more or see a bit more of these colonial dynamics that are still present in our current world. So that's one of the whys of how the idea of this film came about.
And so when the film begins, we see that you say that it's set around 1900. Why specifically these years?
Yes, around 1900s. I mean, also it's of course around the start of the Industrial Revolution. A time of a lot of changes was happening at that time, and one of these changes was that there was implemented from the Dutch government this so-called ethical code, which there was a different look at the colonial practices from that moment on. Around 1945, 1950 was actually the abolishment of the colonial oppression in Indonesia, but already around 1900 was a time where, morally speaking, there was a shift in how people were looking at this colonial project. I mean, around 18, there was a long time that the 17th and 18th century was described, even when I was, in history classes at high school, they was described as the golden era. So there was a lot of pride, like this was the time that we can be proud of. And around 1900, there was a shift. Of course, there's this famous book by Multatuli, Max Havelaar, that was around 1850, which was already very critical about the colonial presence. So 1900 was already a time where the beginning of the ending was there. And that's what I wanted to show. Like, I wanted to show a group of people who already know that their presence there should come to an end, but they cannot give up their privileges and their position yet. So they hold on to something that, in a way, doesn't belong to them or is already about to die, so to say.
Do we have some questions? No? Well, I will go on then.
Yeah.
Oh, we have one there. Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, I had the impression that you also have a critical view of the Indonesians themselves in the film. So somehow they seem to have taken on the behavior of the Western world. Can you elaborate on that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good question. No, definitely, I didn't want to give a critical view of the Indonesians or their behavior during those times, but for me it was very important to not have a certain victimizing gaze on these people, even if they are victims of the situation, even if they are oppressed. I thought it was very important to show them in their humanity. And if you tell the story that oppression results to some kind of saints, suffering saints who are only able to do good, and that we can pity, that's also a reduction of a human being. And I think it would have. I thought it would be much more. It would be much easier for an audience to identify with these characters, even if they're part of the oppressors or the oppressed, when they would have all human qualities. So also the resentment, also the anger, also the humor, also the sexuality, all entwined. So I wanted to show the duality in all characters, but it was never my intention to show them as villains or something like that. So I hope that was not the effect of the film.
Thank you. So maybe we could go on by asking a question to all the cast of the film, and it's how did you yourself kind of connect with the characters that you were playing? How did you envision them, and how? Yeah.
When I first read the script, I was fascinated by what Anna wrote, not only the situation, but also the creation of all the different characters. So I thought, well, it's very fascinating, but I have to read it another time to really know what is going on, because it was the whole atmosphere. It was in repetition of lines. It was in description of scenes. It was the total amount, you know, and the parts, and it's an ensemble piece, they're part of this whole weird surrealistic world. So I was very, very happy that we had the chance to rehearse a lot and to talk things over, to try out things. We ended up also playing different gradations on the set, without any emotion, over-the-top emotions, variations, all kinds of variations. So for me, all that was also a new experience, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun creating these weird characters, because it's not realistic, although you have to be able to relate to them. Somehow, Anna created like a helicopter view, looking at these creatures that somehow also, had their own life, but didn't really belong there, not realistically. You know, it was all one melting pot of strangeness. Yeah.
I think.
No, it's
Hi. Yeah, I think Anna and the cast tried to make these human beings a real human being with every aspect of the emotions they have. So that's what you just said, right? We tried not to show just one way, it's a bad guy or a bad girl, but every emotion you can feel in a situation, sort of like this. So the whole palette we tried to show with every one of us. So it was really nice to act in a way like that. It's very, it was nice. It was round. It felt round. Yeah. Someone else.
Hayati, would you like to share your thoughts?
Is it working? Okay. I decided to not watch this movie after I saw it in the big screen minutes ago, because I also want to see a perspective of being an audience, how to feel in the certain situation where you have to always feel submissive, or you're always feeling down. Like at this current time, we're still doing it without us realizing it. So even when I look at myself in the screen, it's like I feel pity as this character, that we're just we just keep repeating over and over of how we're gonna survive in the situation where you cannot decide on the spot how to get a life what we want, but in reality it's not what we expect, you know. And when we're doing the rehearsal, actually it's really fun that we managed to find who City is, and I cannot thank enough that I get to be the part of what my character, I cannot thank enough for Anna to present this character to anyone who can relate what she felt. So, yeah.
And by the way, this was her first time acting. So this is another thing. First time actress. I mean, to blow everybody away like that, it's a miracle, truly. So honored to have worked with you. Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, when you see City doing is actually what I felt as well at the time we were doing the movie. So I almost forgot that we make this video, this project actually.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, yeah, we're good. So, yeah, I can relate to Karel, I guess, because I am a mixed Dutch kid. But also, you know, going through the jungle and stuff was really fun. Going to, what's it? Reunion Island all the way. Me, you know, Hayati, Lisa, Renee, and Khan, Cornelis. You know, the whole cast is very fun. It was a very fun project, my first movie. I don't know how I got picked. But yeah, it was fun.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming. How I embody the character. Actually, to be honest, the first thing what I did was drinking alcohol and smoking. Because I don't drink alcohol and then I don't smoke. But for this movie, I like every night I went to bar just to get drunk and to smoke. And actually there is one time when we had dinner and then I told her, come on, I would like to practice my lines while I'm drunk. But actually I couldn't concentrate and then I just forgot all the lines. And it wasn't really bad idea because I was about to ask Anna, is it possible if I drunk during the shooting? And then, no. But actually, what I did the practice was, it's not possible because when we drunk, we cannot concentrate. So actually, that's the first thing what I did for Reza. I would like to feel his messy life. That kind of, I don't know, he has this kind of crazy mind, which is I can relate to him actually because I always like to rebellious. Yeah, I kind of that kind of person too actually in my family. Also in my circle, I always like to do something which is extraordinary, like this heel I'm wearing now, for example. Yeah. So I don't know, like I always like the idea of extraordinary, like what is normal. I don't know what's normal is. So Reza is give me this kind of feeling of just trying being crazy and being extraordinary in every way. Yeah, I think maybe that one. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a bit of like an actor's cliche when I say this, but you can easily see, I think, Josephine and Cornelis as the bad guys, but you cannot play a bad guy. So we really had to, and I vomit when I say this, but you have to connect with, the good side in Cornelis, or you have to understand why he does the things that he does. But you have to, otherwise it becomes a caricature. And so for me, he's not a bad guy. I understand everything he does. I mean, I would never kill a child, of course, but I understand his motives. And I loved when I read the script that I haven't seen it that lot, that like a character like this who's so weak in a way. But I love to play that because he wants to be this man and he's struggling with his role of masculinity that he has to perform, but he cannot perform it, and he's And it's even worse than I thought, because I have to throw the plate against the wall in one scene. And when I did that scene, I thought like, oh, this is so cool. I'm throwing this plate at the wall, and then I saw it, and I'm doing it like this. I'm like, and that is, and Anna said, yeah, that is Cornelis, and that, and I love it. That actually, that you don't see it that often. So I loved playing this bad guy. Yeah.
Do we have some questions? We have one here, yes.
Posso parlare in italiano?
Sì, sì.
Ok. Perché il mio inglese è pessimo, però volevo... mi è sembrato che questo film sia anche un film sull'identità, nel senso che ci sono alcuni personaggi che non sanno chi sono realmente a un certo punto della loro vita. Agatha, per esempio, non sa, col passare del tempo non sa più qual è il suo ruolo, qual è il suo posto, e così anche per Siti, anche Siti non sa davvero da che parte deve stare. Non riconosce più se stessa, non sa qual è il luogo da cui è venuta, ma non sa più dove si trova. Mentre Carrel, Josephine, Reza e Cornelius sembrano sapere davvero chi sono. Josephine sa che lì non vuole stare, e lo stesso è per Cornelius. Insomma, mi è sembrato molto un film, anche una riflessione sull'identità, sul non riconoscersi più quelli che si è una volta, insomma, non sapere qual è il proprio ruolo. Ecco, mi è sembrato molto bello questo.
Really good point of view.
Yeah. No, I completely agree that it's a big part of the film. Yeah, it's also a question that arose while writing the screenplay. How tied are we to the countries that we come from, that we happen to be born in? Maybe we are born in a different countries. Maybe we have roots somewhere else. What do these roots mean? At some point in the film, Siti says to Karel, "You don't have to be you don't have to have been somewhere to be from there." Which for me, interestingly enough, when I wrote it, for me it was just an idea that I wanted to put in the film. It's not my, it's not something that I personally necessarily believe. I just wanted to put different ideas next to each other in the film and then make it into one big, just a vacuum of different ideas. But there were a lot of people, some people who came up to me and said, like, yes, that's really true. You don't need to have been somewhere to be from there. And I'm for me it's always also a difficult thing. Identity is the country where you're from that important? Like, aren't we more? I mean, on a human level, we are all the same. The nation is a construction as well. So when I was writing the screenplay and read about all these Dutch colonists who were living there, they lived there for generation after generation. So then in that moment you have ties with that country as well, but you are still a foreigner. So I found that aspect of this whole arena, I found it very interesting. Yeah.
We have a question in the front. How long did you... Just a second. There you go.
Hello. How long did you thought about which script you would write, and how long did it take to find the characters you needed for your story?
Well, I wrote version after version. I don't know. I would say we came to version 94 or something. But I mean, not every version was a completely new version from A to Z. Sometimes there would be one scene that would be different, but for sure, you know, there have been versions after versions of the screenplay, and they you know, they would be completely different. I would find a completely different entrance. When I started, it was more the story of Agathe. And then when I continued, at some point, other characters stepped to the foreground, and they took more and more space in the screenplay. So that happened more or less organically. But definitely, yeah, after the casting process, there was also time to do one more round. And that was the most interesting one, I think, because then you can really see the faces. And I'm just really so blessed to have found all this amazing cast. Like I'm really, they, you know, when you write and you don't have certain actors in mind, then it's like it's just a vague, you know, there's a lot of vagueness there, and they surpassed actually my expectations, all of them. So yeah, I feel very happy that we were able to find them. Yeah.
We have one here and then.
Hi. Congrats for this amazing movie. Really, this, I could also join you for crying because I didn't find that emotions which we've been woven all in all these stories.
Overwhelming,
but
eh?
What are but what are your expectations in Holland when you show the movie?
Yeah. Well, it's very. The premiere is going to be as the opening film of the Dutch Film Festival. So practically the whole Dutch film industry is going to be there. I look very much forward to it. What do I expect? Maybe I'm curious. What do you guys expect? Yeah.
Well, the Dutch are people who are like, if they're familiar with things, they're good with it. So I think this is a new kind of filmmaking, maybe in Holland. I mean, there were movies made like this, maybe, but it's not a main common thing. So I'm very excited for the reactions of the Dutchies. I think the film people will really appreciate it because there are a lot of time spent in it and a lot of like engagement, and you feel that out of the movie. So I hope and I think they will like it, but I think there are gonna be people who are like, I don't know how or what, and that's a good thing, I think, in Holland and everywhere maybe. Yeah.
Sorry? I mean, we just presented it for the first time. Hopefully, I mean, there are some festivals already in line. Hopefully there's going to be more. And hopefully it will be in cinemas in other countries as well. Yeah, but 28th of September it will come out in cinemas in the Netherlands. So, you know, and we have some familiar faces in the cast. So I think, I hope people will come and see it. Yeah.
You wanted to add something, Mohammed?
Yeah, actually, my expectation is I hope after this movie there will be a lot of Dutch Indo movie production more. Like it's because I mean, Netherlands and Indonesia, we share a very strong relationship back in the past, and also nowadays a lot of Dutch in Indonesia still. And like with this kind of movie, it's good that remind us that we have strong bond, but in a good way, you know. Like I hope this will come like in the next. There will be more Indo-Dutch production in Indonesia. My expectation, because I would like to work more in Dutch movie. Yeah, of course, that's like really honest for me.
So we have a question in the back.
Hi, congratulations for the film. I really enjoyed it. My question is maybe more for the director, but if anyone wants to jump in, please. I really appreciated the way the concept of paternalism was there in the film. I felt it was portrayed in a very authentic way. And I was wondering if this was a conscious decision, the way this concept was there, or if it was a product of the story and of the other, your other experiences with colonialism and everything. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, what comes to mind is when I showed my first feature. It was screened in the Cannes Acid competition, and I had a question from the audience, and the question was: is this film actually about the death of patriarchy? And it was a, you know, and I didn't see my first film like that, so I didn't. But it was a question that opened some doors in my head, that maybe that could be an interpretation of that first film in certain ways. So it is an idea that from there I did take into this film. Of course, now more literally with the dying of the patriarch, and then, you know, him becoming some ghost that can show up, but the system still being in place actually. So it's so I do think that for sure it was in the back of my head that this would be an ingredient, but not the only one. Yeah.
We have a question in the back.
I have a question to the end. Can you explain the logic of the end, why this lady burns down the house when she knows that her son inherits everything?
Sorry, I don't see the person.
It's yeah, there.
Ah, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Why the lady burns down the house?
Because her son inherits everything, and I mean, she makes damage to the heritage of her son. This I don't quite understand.
Yeah. If you get it, you get it. In certain ways. I mean, she's deeply depressed and suicidal. From the beginning, she's deeply depressed. And at some point, it's too much. You know, and there were, I mean, I talked before that there were many versions of the script, and also versions with a quote-unquote happy end. But, you know, doing all this research for the script, you know, having traveled in Indonesia for 6 months as well, I just felt too much despair around this subject to end on a happy note, so to say. So I felt it needed this heaviness, and almost like a Greek tragedy, I wanted to kill almost all the characters, you know. But it's not so literal, this death. It's also a symbolic death. So if you step a bit out of the realism, then maybe it will be a key to understand the burning of the house.
You have to watch it again. Do we have some more questions? Yes, here.
Simple question. Did I understand that you filmed in La Réunion and not in Indonesia? Why is that?
Yes, that's correct. We were actually ready to shoot in Indonesia. Everything was set, ready. And 1 month before departure, the Delta variant of COVID broke out in Indonesia very severely. And, well, maybe producer can say a word on that.
Yeah, so we had to stop the production in 2021, just prior to the shooting due to COVID. And then, unfortunately, we had to wait for almost a year due to the rain season in Indonesia. So we had our location scouted. This wonderful cast was already assembled. And we had to pull the plug and make the difficult decision to move the film forward to push it after the rain season. And at that point, we didn't know how long COVID would stay. So we were researching different locations which could resemble the nature of Indonesia, that has sugar, that has a colonial houses that might look like colonial Dutch houses. And Judy, who was a producing partner, came across the island of La Réunion, went there on a scouting trip, and we found new locations, and for safety reasons we decided to reset up the film in La Réunion and had the chance to shoot 1 year later. And we were super happy that all the cast was available and willing to stay involved. We're also happy that Rio didn't grow too big, so he could still be Ricardo. And so eventually that was the reason why we shot it in La Réunion with a great team over there, and we brought a big Indonesian, the main cast from Indonesia. We brought a lot of Dutch, Swedish, French, La Réunion crew, we shot the film. Yeah, so that's the reason why we landed in La Réunion.
Just a second. Please, can you repeat?
Hi. Can you tell about how difficult or how easy it was to finance the movie?
I think what really helped was the talent of Anna and her previous work. The script had a very clear signature from the beginning on the vision, what we want to do, mirroring the colonial past towards contemporary times. And people either loved it or hated it. So sometimes we got very clear no's or very clear yeses. It was never in the middle. It was hard because it was an ambitious film. We had to shoot it in the midst of COVID, so there was a lot of uncertainty about how to do it. But eventually it became a Dutch, French, Swedish, Indonesian co-production. And that's how we financed the film. I think it took us 1.5 or... when we had to move from Indonesia to La Réunion, we opened up the financing again and we refinanced with France involved. But I would say it was difficult, as always.
So we have time for one last question, if there is, in the audience. Yes, in the back, please.
Anch'io vorrei parlare in italiano, se posso. Allora, ho sentito alla radio, non so se mi sono sbagliato, che la regista si è fatta ispirare da un libro ungherese, ma mi sono persa l'autore e vorrei sapere se è vero. E che ha detto che se un ungherese può scrivere degli indonesiani, posso farlo anch'io. E l'ho trovato bellissimo. Solo che mi interessava sapere chi era questo autore. E la seconda cosa che volevo dire è che volevo chiedere è quanto lei ha messo del suo gusto negli interni, cioè questi interni all'interno di questa casa, questi colori sono fortissimi nel film e volevo sapere quanto per lei era chiaro questo quando ha pensato al film. Grazie.
So while doing the research for the film, I read a lot of fiction as well from that time. So it wasn't necessarily one book that inspired me, but there was one book in particular that inspired me more than others. Let's put it like that. And that was a book. It was not an English book, but it was a book written by a Hungarian writer. His name is Székely. The title of the book is From Jungle to Plantation, A Planter's Life. He wrote about his experiences being on a Dutch rubber plantation on Sumatra around 1900 and living there, because it wasn't only Dutch people who were working there were people from all of Europe coming as well. To try to make a buck, so to say. So, but this book is very much. I mean, you can really feel like this kind of. Everything is very tangible. So when you read the book, you feel the heat. You feel the mosquitoes. You feel. Everything was so tangible. So I thought that was very important for my film, to really feel that there's like a certain atmosphere there that also affects your way of. Your brain functioning, and that affects your decision making as well. So that was a very inspiring book for sure. Second question was about the interiors. Yes. So it was very important for me to make this an own film universe, so to say. And a very stylized world is what I wanted to make. So I did a lot of research with the production designer, Mirta Beltman, on how we are going to construct these interiors. And we had a lot of inspiration also from certain films as well. A film like Salo, the interiors of Salo, was inspiring to us to show this kind of hellhole, so to say. inside the house. But yeah, of course, it was we wanted to have high ceilings. That was very important to make the characters feel very small, in certain ways. These are a few thoughts about that. Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Hayati, Rene, Lisa, Muhammad, Rio, and Florian.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your days in Locarno. The film is still playing in the next days, so please feel free to warmly recommend it to your friends. And see you around. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what the movie was about?